Hi everyone, I am Neha Verma and welcome back to my channel English NTA NET JRF. So in the previous video we have covered the 100 Years of War and the introduction of Chaucer. So in this video we are going to cover the remaining works of Chaucer and except Canterbury Tales because that's the longest work, and we will cover this video in the next separate session. So we know there is a huge gap of a month, so I really apologize for that. And before proceeding further, just take out your pen and paper and without forgetting just subscribe this channel, and if you like the video just hit the like button. So we'll start it here. So the first major work was Book of Duchess. As you can see, I have written the major details of this work. You do not need to remember the year when it was written and other story details, because just the major things will going to be asked in your net paper or set paper or any other competitive exam if you are applying for that, right? So Book of Duchess, which was written with 1334 lines. Now this is important, you have to mark this. 1334 lines, right? Do not remember the year but the number of lines, because this is very important for net purpose of you, right? And then we have octosyllabic couplet. What do you mean by octosyllabic couplet? Let me tell you what is a couplet first. Couplet, that is a heroic couplet which you have read through so many of the books of English literature as you have done MA in English, so you must be familiar with the term couplet. But let me just make it very clear. Like, couplet is a two-line sentence in poetry, right? So whenever you read a poetry, like if it has a couplet, how can you recognize the couplet? When you have a two rhythmic lines. For example, if I say weird and tear, like they are the two lines in continuous way and they are ending with the two similar sounding words, that is wear and tear. For example, let's say this, right? So if there are two lines which are ending with the similar sounding words, which are ending with the rhythmic words, with the rhyming words, there you have a heroic couplet or couplet. So now come back to octosyllabic couplet. What is octo? Octo means 8. Octo means 8 and syllabic means syllable, right? So if you do not have any prior knowledge of what is a syllable, let me tell you what is a syllable first. For example, if you take any word, like if I take tear, right? So tear, you just have to count like how many number of vowels are there in a syllable. Like in this word, one is E, that is a vowel, another is A, that is a vowel. So if you are identifying the number of vowels here, so you can identify there are two vowels here, but that doesn't mean there is two syllable here. When you have same vowels, when you have vowels placed side by side, like एकदम जो पास जो vowels होते हैं, right? So they are counted as one syllable, right? But in another word, let's say if I say Chaucer, how many number of vowels are here? 1, 2 and 3. There are 3 vowels, but जो vowels पास में आते हैं, that are counted as one single syllable. तो यहाँ पे हुए हमारे 2 syllable, right? 2 syllable, क्योंकि इन दोनों को हम 1 count करेंगे and this will be counted as another one, right? So there are 2 syllable. So if you can count how many number of words in a how many number of syllable in a poetic line, then you will be able to count 8, 9, 10, 11 or whatever they are. So come back to this octosyllabic couplet. What is an octosyllabic couplet? If you find a poetic line which has number of words, let's say 5 or 10 number of words are there in a single line, so you have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, like how many syllables are there. If there are 8, so that line is counted as octosyllable. And if that is a couplet, what is a couplet? 2 lines which are ending with same sounding words, right? So they will be termed as octosyllabic couplet. If it is not clear for then you can Google it out, and we can have a separate session for all the pentameters, iambic pentameters and other things which is very necessary for net point of view, right? So here, what is there in Book of Duchess? Book of Duchess was the first major work written by him, 1334 lines, and it has octosyllabic couplets. Next, they are the characters Cs and Alcyone. Cs and Alcyone, just remember they are the two characters. The story is about Cs and Alcyone, as you can write it down from here. And third, this is a French tradition of dream. What do you mean by French tradition of dream? Like if you have already read the works of Chaucer, like the summary of Chaucer for your net exam or set exam, you have read that it is a dream allegory, it is a dream vision. So dream allegory and dream vision, they are both in the same word, they mean same thing. So if you are going to say like this poem has dream vision, this poem has dream allegory, that means the whole literary genre has been taken from the French literary tradition, that was not invented or originated in England or through English writers, that was taken through French writing. So we say French tradition of dream, right? This is clear. Then next we have, it was dedicated to wife of John of Gaunt. Now who was John of Gaunt? As we have covered in the previous video, that John of Gaunt was the uncle to Richard II, our second king from the 100 Years of War. We have three kings over there, like Edward First, I can write it here. Edward First, Richard II, and who was the third one? Henry IV, right? So we have Richard II here, and he had an uncle called John of Gaunt, right? So it was this work, Book of Duchess, it was dedicated to the wife of John of Gaunt, right? And then it was written on the death of Blanche of Lancaster. So she was the wife of John of Gaunt. Who was she? Blanche of Lancaster, right? So you have to remember these major things, like this poem was written on the death of Blanche of Lancaster, right? So they are the major things over here, and you have also covered octosyllabic couplet. So these are the things for the Book of Duchess. Now the next work which we will do is House of Fame. House of Fame, it's a second work. It is not in a chronological order, but as you can say, it was uncertain, the time period was uncertain. So we just need to remember, like the first major work was, which we have just covered, Book of Duchess, and the second is House of Fame. So it was unfinished dream poetry. So in the case of Chaucer, you have to remember that most of the works were dream poem, dream allegory, dream vision. You can have any word with this term, and you can have any question related to this, like related to dream vision, right? So this is unfinished dream poem, and which is the another work written by him which is also unfinished, that is Canterbury Tales, right? So we have 2158 lines. You have to remember this is important. Like we do not have the correct number of lines, like it can be there can be a slight difference to it, but the major figure is this, like 2000, greater than 2000 number of lines, right? So 2158 lines are there, and this is again octosyllabic couplet. We have already covered this. This is in three part, right? The first part, second part, and third part, right? So in the first part, the poet is reading something and he falls asleep, and there in the vision he sees there is an eagle who is guiding him through all the ways, and there he sees himself in temple of glass. So there is a temple which is made by glass, right? There he sees Aeneas and Dido. So who were Aeneas and Dido? Aeneas and Dido, they were the couple. There has a love story about them, and Aeneas is the hero and Dido is the queen, like you have also heard Queen of Carthage, right? So Aeneas and Dido, there's a love story going on, and it was voiced by our writer Chaucer, right? Our poet Chaucer. And in the second section of the book, we have a way where the poet reaches to the place called House of Fame. First place is House of Fame and second place is Palace of Fame, right? So he watches different identities, different entities of gods from classical and biblical tales, which I have written over here. Like he sees entities of classical and biblical tales. I mean, whatever the persons which had come in biblical stories or in the classical stories. So he watches everyone in the Palace of Fame. So first place is House of Fame and second place is Palace of Fame. And first section of the book covers the Temple of Glass, right? Two things are clear here. So here we have third. And in the third section, you can see the comparison through a poet called Dante. You must be heard about him. He was a very famous writer and poet also. So Dante's Divine Comedy, it's a work written by him, very famous work. So there you see Aeolus is a person who blows a trumpet. Who was a person? Aeolus. Aeolus is a person who blows a trumpet here, and there is a scene which has a similarity between Dante's Divine Comedy and this work, House of Fame. So this is the major important thing which you have to remember, right? Then we have in the third section of the book, we see there is a lot of commotion, a lot of disturbance, lot of confusion goes on, and there arrives a man called a man of great octorate. What is octorate? Octorate means a person who has a certain kind of authority to something or something else, right? So a man of great octorate, author doesn't, Chaucer doesn't name him anything, like there is no name to this man, but he just identifies it with a man of great octorate. So there can be a question with this name, like who was the man of great octorate, or who is the man of authority and what does he do? So he is the person who is responsible to solve all the commotion, all the confusion go on in the story. So here the poem ends here. So it is an unfinished poem. It's an unfinished poem, and the end is over here. So this ends here, right? Next we have the another poem by him, that is Parliament of Fowls. So let me just erase it. Right. Parliament of Fowls. Right. You can also read it as Parliament of Fools or Parliament of Fowls, right? So in Parliament of Fowls, it's a shortest poem, you can say. It has 699 lines of poem. Comparatively shorter than the earlier poems which I have read, right? So Parliament of Fowls, it has 699 lines inside the poem. We have 699 lines poem in the Parliament of Fowls, and it was also written again in French tradition of romance, right? Then this poem was written to praise the marriage of Richard II with Anne of Bohemia. Who was Richard II? Richard II was the second king in 100 Years of War. So as I had told you in the previous video, that Chaucer was the only court poet who had worked under 3 kings of England. First one was Edward III, second was Richard II, and third one was Henry IV, right? So in this work, Richard II, who was the son of Edward III, so he marries Anne of Bohemia. So this poem was written to praise the marriage of Richard II with Anne of Bohemia. And this poem was written to satirize the courtly love. What is courtly love? A love story which is depicted into a court, like for example, if there is a kingdom, so all the major work, all the major things and decisions will be taken by a king, and he has a court here and that quote has certain people, when people fall in love with someone else and with certain other people, right? So there is a tradition of courtly love. So Chaucer satirizes the tradition of courtly love here. This is the major thing, you have to remember it. And a debate between love and marriage. So what occurs in this poem, like there's a ongoing conference between the birds, ongoing conference between the birds on the day of Saint Valentine's Day. Saint Valentine's Day, right? So on the day of Valentine's Day, there is a conference going on between the words, and there nature takes control over the debate, because there was an ongoing debate between eagles. There are a lot of eagles over there who are debating between love and marriage. So this is an unending debate in this poem. And there further we see that there are differences, there are debates, there are arguments. So this is an ongoing debate. So Parliament of Fools is a poem which is about different birds. Like the birds are not the real bird. This is kind of allegory here. Chaucer wants to satirize the courtly person, like all the birds are the courtly members in England. So Chaucer here satirizing the tradition of courtly love. So that's it in the Parliament of Fowls. These are the major points which you have to remember for net purpose of you. Do not go deep into the story details because you won't be able to remember. Second thing is, like, this doesn't ask, like you won't be asked about what is there inside the story. You just have to remember the characters, and you just need to remember what was the setting or what was the major character. So I'll make you learn whatever inside the poem. So these are the major things. And the next poem is Troilus and Criseyde. So I wrote it. So in Troilus and Criseyde, what do we find? That this is the longest written poem by Chaucer, one of the longest written poem, and this was a poem which was written in rhyme royal stanza. So the next work is Troilus and Criseyde. It is the longest work written by Chaucer. It has 8 to 3 lines, 8 to 39 lines, right? And it was written in rhyme royal stanza. So remember first thing, that rhyme royal stanza was invented by Chaucer himself. So the first major work which has the rhyme royal thing is Troilus and Criseyde. This has come multiple times in the question paper of NET or in SET or in other exams, like rhyme and royal, which was invented by Chaucer, and which is the first major work which has its literary genre called rhyme royal. So this is the major work of rhyme royal. And what is rhyme royal? Rhyme royal is a 7 lines iambic pentameter stanza. So let me cover this. What is 7 line iambic pentameter stanza? So if there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 lines, right? And all of them are written in iambic pentameter. Pentameter means 5. As we have covered that octosyllabic thing. So here we have penta. Penta means 5. Pentameter stanza. So I'm not going in the deep of in the details of iambic pentameter, because we will have a separate session on various things like this. So there are 7 lines, and you have to count in each line, like pentameter. Meter, for example, let's say a word. So there are 5 words which has pentameter according to the pattern of iambic pentameter. So just remember 7 line iambic pentameter stanza is called rhyme royal, right? It was written in 8 to 39 lines, and the plot was taken from Il Filistretto of Boccaccio. Who was Boccaccio? Boccaccio was the famous Italian writer. If you have listened my previous video, we have covered this. Like Giovanni Boccaccio was the only Italian writer who was saved from the bubonic plague. You remember that plague, the biggest plague in England, right? And in the nearby states, and it was a major plague which has disturbed the continents and the major countries of the world. So Boccaccio was the person who has been saved through that plague. So he has written a work called Il Filistretto. So the whole plot of Troilus and Criseyde was taken from the work of Boccaccio, and the name was Il Filistretto, right? And another thing, like, what is the love story of Troilus and Criseyde? Troilus was our throne hero. Right? So Troilus was the son of King Priam, and Criseyde is our heroine, who was the widowed daughter of deserter priest Chaucer. So Troilus was from the throne side and Criseyde was from the Greek army side. So they fall in love, and there is an uncle of Criseyde whose name was Pandarus. Right? Uncle Pandarus was responsible to reconcile the relationship between Troilus and Criseyde. So Criseyde was sent to the Greek army to help her father's army during the war. And there, when she was in the another side, like she was in the father side of the war of the army, and there is a hero called Diomedes. Right? There's a hero called Diomedes. She falls in love with Diomedes, and Diomedes also reciprocates the love in spite of promising to return to the another side, like to return to the throne side of the army. She falls in love with Diomedes, and there, in this sorrow, our hero Troilus was killed in the army, and he was grief-stricken, and there the story goes on. So Troilus and Criseyde, this is the story behind it. It was written in rhyme and royal stanza, 8 to 39 lines. Plot was taken from Il Filistretto of Boccaccio, right? So these are the major details of Troilus and Criseyde. And the next major work is, the last work is The Legend of Good Women. So we'll cover it side by side. So the next major work is Legend of Good Women. What do you mean by legend? Legend is a story, the famous heroic story, right? So the Legend of Good Women, it is again a dream vision, because this is a major important literary genre used by Chaucer, and it has a prologue and 9 stories. So prologue, which is an introduction of the poem, and there are the 9 stories by these 9 women. So what was the context is, like Chaucer write this in a way that there is a god of love who is annoyed at Chaucer for again and again writing the negative sides of women. Like he had not for a single time identified women with their qualities, with their virtues. So in a way, the god of love is annoyed at Chaucer. So to take penance, to take a form of lamentation, he was instructed to write about the virtues of women, of good women. So he starts with 9 stories. So there's a prologue and there are 9 stories. So this is the major section of the poem, right? And the first one was Cleopatra. You just need to remember the 9 women names: Cleopatra, Thisbe, Dido, Hypsipyle and Medea. I have written this together because these were the 2 women come in the same story, right? So Hypsipyle and Medea, Lucretia, there you have Ariel, there you have Philomela and Phyllis, and the last one is Hypermnestra. Hypermnestra was the woman which was written with unfinished story. So there are the 9 legends of the story, and the last one, Hypermnestra, has unfinished story, has unfinished tale, right? And this is the major detail, but apart from this, what are the other major important things to which you need to remember is that Tennyson. Who was Tennyson? Tennyson was our Victorian poet who has taken this poem's theme as his own theme in another poem, which was A Dream of Fair Woman. A Dream of Fair Woman. It was a poem written by Tennyson, and it has a theme which was taken from this poem, Legion of Good Women. Right. The second important detail is in Canterbury Tales, Chaucer has a man called Man of Law. It is a character inside the Canterbury Tales. So the Man of Law describes in detail about the legion of good women. So this is another important thing to remember. Like in Canterbury Tales, Man of Law is there who explains the further details of the story of legend of good women. Another important thing which you need to remember is, like, in order to describe the negative sides of men, this tale has become the legion of bad men instead of legend of good women. Although he was trying to write something about the women who were being rejected by the famous man, but like instead of the legend of good women, it come out as legend of bad men. So these are the details of Legend of Good Women. So we have covered the 5 works, right? Book of Duchess, House of Fame, Parliament of Fools, Troilus and Criseyde, The Legend of Good Women. And Canterbury Tales will cover it in another next session. And before going further, just remember that after listening this video, you need to cover up it through the theory book, whichever you are reading, and after that just solve the MCQ questions, because without listening, reading, all the MCQs are wasted, right? So you have to do that work. And after that, which is another, like, if you find this lecture very interesting or useful or knowledgeable for your net purpose of view, so you can also purchase the notes or PDFs. So the PDFs link is over below this description box, and also you can contact me through the WhatsApp number which I am mentioning below. And you can also place your order if you want the printouts of the notes, the complete section which has MCQs, which has explanation of previous year question papers, and which also has world literature and other major, the whole section of your net syllabus. I have covered that systematically. You can also purchase that by dropping a mail below the email address. So that's it. Keep liking it, keep sharing if you like the video, and do not miss to press the button subscribe. So goodbye.